Good evening, dear friends. Welcome to the today's session. In the previous session, we discussed fiction in detail, especially the novel and the subtypes of the novel, as well as the definition of the novel. So, in today's class, I will try to quickly recapitulate the fiction for just within just 10 minutes, and I will go for the non-fiction novel, non-fiction, other types of novels in the non-fiction. Novels are subgenres. And if time permits, I will go to the history of English literature, especially the table which is designed by me. So once again, warm welcome to all to the today's session. So I request you all to please share your opinion. Feel free to share your opinion regarding the classes or regarding the material or question paper, whatever it is. So I request you all to please be active at the uh, question answer session at least. I'm not sure how many of you are listening or how many of you are active throughout the class. So my sincere request to all is please maintain a notebook along with your material. Of course, the material, the screen is shared for you, but if necessary, you can write some missing points in the material itself. Better to use a pencil. It's a good practice, and please try to practice the given questions, as well as I request you to please practice the previous question papers. So that should be your uh, first and foremost task should be. Just a second, 1 second. Yeah. Now I will go into the yesterday's class for quick revision. Yeah, we have gone through the definition of the fiction. It is based on imaginary imaginary characters, imaginary situations, as well as imaginary plot, or what is a story we can call it as. So there are several types of subgenres in fiction. Especially the novel is very famous. Along with the novel, short stories are there, fables, and narrative poetry, epic, and there are many other forms. But novel is the most dominating of all these literary genres. And as per the definition, a novella is a little new thing. It is of above 50,000 words. So kindly make a correction of this. Uh, uh, a short story is about 2000 to 7500 words, and a novella is of middle length. It is shorter than a novel and longer than a short story. So please remember this. And we have discussed what is genre fiction and what is literary fiction. A slight difference: if we are able to categorize the particular work into subtype or subcategorize, so this is known as a genre fiction. But if you are not able to easily subcategorize that particular work, that will become literary fiction. So we try to discuss the horror fiction, magic realism, crime detective fiction, and all the other terms related to the fiction yesterday. So this is the definition. Novella is a French Italian word. Sorry, it means a little new thing, a little new thing. So please remember this important work along with the subtitle, that is Ian Watts, The Rise of the Novel, Studies in Defoe, Richardson, and Fielding. The subtitle is also very important. And we have also gone through two important definitions. Actually, these two are important definitions. One is novel is a pocket theater, and novel is a comic epic in prose. So please try to remember these definitions. And we also discussed the history of novel, that is from Boccaccio's Italian work, 1350, the famous work Decameron. Decameron is a collection of 100 stories. Please remember this one, 100 stories with 10 characters in it. So there are 7 women and 3 men characters are there. So these 10 people narrate the stories, and that is 100 stories. The same is a model for Chaucer's Canterbury Tales. There is a connection. So Chaucer imitated the style of Boccaccio. So actually, he wanted to write more than 120 stories. So this Boccaccio's Decameron is a model for Chaucer's famous Canterbury Tales, and we discussed that in prose also. And Defoe's Robinson Crusoe is a it is treated as the first English novel. Of course, there are several other examples, but this is treated as the first English novel. And Samuel Richardson is also known as the father of modern novel. And we have discussed these important works: Pilgrim Progress, with 10 stops in it, the journey of the Christian, and Gulliver Travels is well known for Lilliput's. Unfortunate Travel is very, very important work, that is by Thomas Nashe. Is the first picaresque novel. We also discussed the definition of the picaresque novel. And in 18th century, the Pamela, which is very important work. The subtitle is also very important, The Virtue Rewarded. And we also discussed the Tristram Shandy, Vicar of the Wakefield, and several other works. Even Gothic novels were discussed. The first Gothic novel is Castle of Otranto. Please remember the names. It may take some time for the new joinees or those who are preparing for the set for the first time. And but this should be this practice should be in a continuous manner, so that yesterday you may not know the word Gothic novel, but today it is very familiar for you, I hope. Yesterday you don't know about what is Castle of Otranto, but today you know it. This is the only suggestion I give you, that is to practice, to read, to revise, to rewrite. So this is the only way to get the literature, and you need to make several connections from one work to one work, one author to one author, one age to one age. So that is another important technique to remember the works. And Jane Austen's works were discussed, and Bronte sisters' work, Jane Eyre. And I also uh, gave a reference to this particular work, Jane Eyre. If you remember, it's well and good. That is a famous work in criticism. Even Ravindra Sir has given an introduction to that work in his class. That is The Mad Women in the Attic. And the other work is Wild Sargassoti. These two were highlighted in the notes. Just please go through it. And Scott's historical novel Waverley is very, very important. And Dickens' novels. David Copperfield is known as his autobiographical novel. Thackeray's Vanity Fair. Vanity Fair, the subtitle is also very important, a novel without a hero. And this has a connection with the Bunyan's Pilgrim Progress. So in this way, you need to just practice. Hardy's Wessex novels. Wessex novels are treated as the regional novels. And Benjamin Disraeli, the Prime Minister of UK, the former Prime Minister, his Sibyl is known as the Two Nations. So very important work. This Barchester Tower novels was also very important. Anthony Trollope, and his Treasure Island is a fantasy novel. Stevenson's about a girl in fantasy world. And Wilkie Collins novels are very important detective novels. I request you to please go through the summary of these two works. Very important. The Women in White, The Moonstone, Butler's Lytton's and Morris novels. These are about future governments, that is utopian society. We discussed this in the previous class also. And these are the terms we discussed: sentimental novel, based on the ordinary characters and their sufferings and the emotions. So very important. Both these novels, Richardson's Pamela, Vicar of the Wakefield, Man of Feeling by Mackenzie, all these are very important novels. And we also discussed the Smollett. The Smollett is known as smell fungus. This was a net question. So Smollett is criticized as smell fungus by Stern. So just please remember, small, smell, some connection, some type of funny connection. Small is compared as to smell. Smollett, smell fungus. This is criticized by Lawrence Stern. Don't forget this connection. If you just forget this connection, you may get confused in the examination. So this is very important. And the other works we discussed is Shamela and Joseph Andrews. These two are the parodies of Pamela. Shamela is uh, Pamela is a virtuous girl, we know. So Shamela is quite opposite to the character of the Pamela. And Joseph Andrews is a brother of Pamela Andrews. The actual heroine, the full name of the Pamela is Pamela Andrews. So just remember the year also, that is 1740, very important. Pamela. The heroine is Pamela Andrews. So her brother is Joseph Andrews. It's also an imaginary novel, and it's a parody novel by Henry Fielding. These are all satires on sentimental stories. And just please, even the Jane Austen's work is also, Sense and Sensibility is also a satire. And we have discussed picaresque novel. So very important one. Come from the Spanish word picaro, the rogue. The rogue is the hero. Simple terms. The rogue is the hero, and his wanderings, his adventures are the important uh, elements of the plot. That is, the first work is Unfortunate Traveler. Very, very important. The subtitle, just now we discussed the Unfortunate Travel, or Life of Jock Wilton, not Milton. So Life of Jock Wilton, very important work. Sometimes you may get some confusing options also in set examination. Simple terms, but we may get confused. Wilton, Milton, like this. So Henry Fielding's Defoe's. So we discussed some special quality of Daniel Defoe. Did you remember that? What is the unique character of Defoe's novels? So it's well and good if you remember. Defoe's novels has
Len-
yeah,
Lengthy subtitles.
lengthy titles, not subtitles. So there is a full titles are very lengthy. We are just looking at the title, Captain Singleton, but the complete title is very lengthy. Even the Robinson Crusoe
Okay, sir.
is a shortened form, and we generally call that novel as Robinson Crusoe. But the full title is very lengthy, almost a paragraph of length. And we also discussed the Vanity Fair, that is novel without hero, and the main character is Becky Sharp. Please remember this, Rebecca or Becky Sharp. She is the heroine of this novel. Very important, and however we'll discuss it in the novel section, but very important. Lawrence Stern's Tristram Shandy, very very important and very very experimental. One of the first experimental novels in English literature. One of the complex novels in English literature, that is Tristram Shandy, Invisible Man, Adventures of Augie March, Tin Drum, White Tiger by Arvind Adigo. All these are categorized into picaresque novels. And sentimental or epistolary. Epistolary means the word epistle. These are all basic terms. So you may be some of you may know the terms but it is very mandatory to know all these terms, all these types of novels. So before you go into the literature, so that is the reason I am taking the class um, in advance before we start that literature section. And Pamela, we discussed this main character. Pamela Andrews writes letters. So through the letters, we come to the plot of the novel. So even Frankenstein, I told you that the main, the robo is Victor Frankenstein. The full name is Victor Frankenstein, and this Victor kills his master, who has created him. And this is first type of scientific novel, one of the early scientific novels, and it's an epistolary novel and very important. So everyone should know the name Dracula. These names should be in your memory, and these names are very common basic terms. For example, if you want to learn mathematics, the multiplication, for example, before that we memorize the tables. So if you don't know the tables, you cannot do the multiplication. It's not easy. So if you know the tables only, you can do that multiplication in a easy manner. So in this way, these are all the basic and important literary works one should memorize. So in examination point of view, or in studying literature, so the Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, very important work. So teenage girls experiences through the World War, and Color Purple, so a unique work by Alice Walker, so in which the teenage girl Sally is very important character here. She writes letters to the god, so that is very important. Domestic novel is also a subgenre of sentimental novel. Here, this is about the sufferings of the domestic life, simply. So Fanny Burney, Jane Austen, all these are exponents of this domestic novel. And we discussed this regional novel also: Wessex, Malgudi, Yaknapatava County. This is not country, county. Please make a correction here. I told you yesterday also. So all these are very important creations, literary creations are settings. We can call it as setting, a place, a region. So that is the reason this is a regional novel. And Gothic novel is also known as novel of fear, novel of terror, novel of ruined castles, and also the ghosts. So even the first novel, that is a Gothic novel, has a subtitle, A Gothic Story, very important, The Castle of Otranto by Horace Walpole. Everyone should remember this. And the other important Gothic stories are also very important, and everybody should has to memorize these works. And sci-fi novels, this is known as science fiction novels or literature of ideas. We discussed all these Gulliver Travels, Bacon's New Atlantis, Frankenstein, and we also discussed the three important people: Hugo, Jens Bach, Jules Verne, and H.G. Wells. These three are called as the fathers of science fiction. And Hugo Awards are very important. The simple question will be asked: Hugo's or Hugo Awards are given to the writers of science fiction. Simple answer. The Time Machine is very important work. Everybody should know the summary of this Time Machine. And Invisible Man, War of the Worlds, all these works are very important. And Stream of Consciousness, here you need to remember two names. One is Henry James, sorry, William James, and Mary Sinclair. May Sinclair. Here, the one has invented the term in psychological perspective, psychology. So it is related to psychology, but May Sinclair has adopted the term to analyze the Dorothy Richardson's novels. So very important. Dorothy Richardson is the prime exponent of this stream of conscious novels because she has written 13 novels. So this is very important. Virginia Woolf's novel, the Mrs. Dalloway, even Ulysses, Otis. Ulysses is also about 1 day events, 18 and hours, half hours of his day. So the entire events are done in 18 and half hours. So that is also very important. We'll discuss it in later in modernism. So Toni Morrison's Beloved, all these are very important. And Bildungsroman, we discuss the difference between what is Bildungsroman and what is Kunstelroman. So Bildungsroman is about the growth of a character. It may be a boy or a girl up to his youth, up to his maturity. This is also called as novel of education, novel of formation, novel of coming of age. So here the first work is Goethe's Wilhelm Meister's Apprenticeship. You need to remember this. And it was translated into English by Thomas Carlyle. And Carlyle's work Sartor Resartus is the first Bildungsroman. Just please remember. And if the hero is a author, if the hero is a writer, or if the hero is an artist, that will become the Kunstelroman. So I already told you, every Kunstelroman is a Bildungsroman, but every Bildungsroman is not a Kunstelroman because every character is not a artist. Every character is may not be a writer. So that is the reason. So please, and we also discuss the utopian world and dystopian world. Utopia means a good place, dystopia means a bad place. So the good place is always about the positive side of the life, without any crime, without any problems. The ideal life, what we dream, even it's not possible today. This was written in 1526, Utopia by Thomas More. This was very important work. And here in 1526, he has a dream how the future world should be. So, but even after 500 years, so it is not possible till today. But please remember one thing, utopia is always about an ideal world. Almost the several other works which are mentioned here is all about utopia. That is a good place to live. That is a good world without any crime, without any problems, without any conflicts. And in dystopia, we only find the crime. We only find the opposite to the utopia. Just you have to remember this. Very, very important works. So we discussed it yesterday. And novella or novelette is a shorter than a novel, a middle-sized novel. Simply, a middle-sized novel is called novelty. And the teachers of English know about this work because this is adapted as the non-detailed text in intermediate in Telangana state. And Heart of Darkness, this is part of our PG syllabus by many universities. The Old Man and Sea is also part of many university syllabus. These are called as novellas. So they are shorter than a novel. And short story, we know that it's of middle, it's a 7,500 words work is called as a short story. The plot, the characters, the twist, the turns are very simple. This is the quick changes are done in the short stories, and I have listed some important short stories of English literature. So just make a note of that. And Beast Fable is nothing but the story of animals, birds, in which they talk, they behave as human beings. For example, the cartoon Tom and Jerry, we all know that that can be called as a beast fable because in Tom and Jerry, the Tom and Jerry both behaves like humans. They talk. So earlier it was a murky picture, but now the voice, the sound, the dialects were added to that comic show. So and the infamous beast fables are Panchatantra. Even in Canterbury Tales, we have a story, The Nun's Priest Tale, very, very important story. Nuns, priest, excuse me one second. Nun's Priest story, very important. A story of Chanticleer, that is a story of a Chanticleer, a hen and a rooster. Very important story. And now we have moved into the non-fiction. I have taken almost 25 minutes this for this revision. uh, it's a little lengthy, sorry for that taking much time. And non-fiction is based on the true historical or factual events. This is exactly opposite to the fiction. So here it is based on the evidences. The evidences are important here. Evidences are what? Evidences historical, are based on the newspapers, are based on the letters, are based on the diaries, based on the interviews, based on the historical works. So, or some historical figures can be seen in this non-fiction. So, this non-fiction has several types of writings, especially reference books like encyclopedia, biographies, chronicles, dictionaries, thesaurus, and all these handbooks, yearbooks, all these are also called as the reference books. Almanac is a timetable of university or whatever it is. So all these can be called as the reference works. These are all non-fictional works. And the life writings called autobiographies, biographies, diaries, memoirs, epistles. Epistles are nothing but letters. All these are also called as non-fictional writings. And literary criticism works is also a non-fictional writing. Sometimes the writer may, the critic may include his own perspectives and the society's reaction to that. And promotional writing like brochures, pamphlets, press releases, advertises, all also called as non-fictional writings. Persuasive writing, that is apologias and polemics. Apologias is nothing but apologia is nothing but a defense of some argument. So we know we have the Philip Sidney's famous work in English criticism, the defense of English poesy or apologia to English poetry. So that is, he defended the poetry, whereas the Plato, the Aristotle, the ancients, especially the Plato, banished the poets from the ideal world. And this Sidney supported the poets. That is an apologia for defense of poetry. And polemics are nothing but satirical, controversial writings. Satirical writings are called polemics. And the others are, we are aware of that, scientific papers, books, essays, especially the essays is very important. News, stories, editorials, travelogues, the experiences of a person. These are all blogs, help books, and other, we're all called as the non-fictional writings. Simple thing, for your idea, I'm just giving all these examples. So non-fiction is simply based on the historical or true events or true people, or real world or real people is involved in this. So we will look into the subtypes of this non-fiction. The first one is, I mentioned here, is the biography. The term was first used by Dryden. The Dryden is also known as the father of English criticism. So please make a note of it. So he used the term in 1683. So he simply said that he defined it as the history of a particular men's lives. Here the term men is for both the men and the women. So here this is about the history of a person. Simply the history of a person is called a biography. But here we have two definitions by two different people. Sidney Lee is a biographer of Shakespeare, biographer of the Shakespeare. We'll discuss in the Shakespeare's lives. So here he said that its function is to transmit personality to rebuild a living man from the dead bones. So what is the purpose of biography? He said, so the biographer, the one who writes the biography is called a biographer. His task, his function, his duty is to rebuild a personality, living man from the dead bones. Maybe the famous personality has died, but the biographer, while writing the biography, he has to search his search for the historical truths, evidences, and he should create a living man, that is from the dead bones. What he meant is, and Thomas Carlyle also mentioned the same almost. It's a essence of countless biographies. History is nothing but, as Dryden has said, almost the same thing the Carlyle has mentioned. History is nothing but is an essence of the biographies. So very simple term. And pure biography and impure biography, this is not enough actually, this is not necessary, but I just give you one idea. Pure biography is about perfect picture of a dead person or the living person, but impure biography means some masala is added, something unnatural, some the author's own views, whatever I mentioned here is the prejudice are included in it, and some substitutions, some moral, some artistic views are added in that. If that is done, that biography will become impure. Here we have a Latin phrase, de mortuis nil nisi bonum. This means living should speak about nothing but good about the dead. So the living persons, generally if a person dies, we discussed this in the elegy. When a person dies, we simply forget the bad about that person and we only talk about the good things done by that person. So this type of desire, this desire, what desire here is a honor for the dead. So we want to honor the dead person, so that will make the pure biography as impure. So what the essence of this quote is, the biographer should present as it is. So the biographer should present the negatives and the positives also. Otherwise, if he praises, if he only praises the dead person, that will become an impure biography. So what does he mean is simple thing. Pure biography means what exactly about the life we just simply portray it. And Carlyle also said that a well written life is almost as rare as a well spent one life. So just remember. And here there is a question from Kerala set examination. I just copied that from there. From writing biographies with real names attached to them, it was but a short step to writing biographies with fictitious names. So, who is the author refers to? Daniel Defoe referred to it. So, instead of writing biographies with real names, so these fictitious names. So, who said this is Daniel Defoe? Just remember this question. And I have given the list of important biographies in English literature. So, these are all very important, and the first few are very, very important. So, everyone should memorize this. The Life of Samuel Johnson, very, very important biography in English literature. This is written by. So, if I simply, whenever you get the life word, that is the Life of Johnson, you should immediately recall the term Boswell. Boswell is a friend of the Johnson. This biography is the most famous biography in English literature, and even the Queen Victoria's biography is also very famous. And this Queen Victoria's biography, which is written by Lytton Strachey, and here I gave the connection. Who is Lytton Strachey? We discussed it in the Victorian age, and even in my class when I was talking about elegy. Queen Victoria's biography is written by Lytton Strachey. He's a writer of a famous book called Eminent Victorians. Do you know how many Victorians were discussed, or how many lives of, or how many Victorians were mentioned in this book? Just try to answer the question. It's again a memory test for you. Just I'm trying to get a response from you from the chat box. How many persons are, who are the persons mentioned in the Eminent Victorians? It's a very important work, Eminent Victorians by Lytton Strachey. Yeah, three persons. No, no Swapna. Yeah, Ravinder sir has given the answer. So, do you know who are the four persons? And out of these four eminent Victorians, there is a lady, there is a women character, there is a women personality in it. Do you know the name of the women personality? I have mentioned it in the previous classes also. It's not a new thing. Yes, Florence Nightingale, Cardinal Manning, very good. Only two names were recalled, not Henry. Yes, Thomas Arnold, right? Thomas Arnold, Cardinal Manning, and Florence Nightingale, and Gordon, Godon, Goddon. So there is a fourth person. So please try to remember that. And the next one, this is also very famous biography by the life of Walter Scott. Walter Scott by Lockhart. Walter Scott by Lockhart. He is a son-in-law of Walter Scott. Do you know who is Walter Scott and what is his famous novel? Just try to answer a question. What is the famous novel by Walter Scott? He is well known for historical novels. Just now I mentioned in the class, historical novels are very famous from Walter Scott. Walter Scott పేరు చెప్పగానే మనకి హిస్టారికల్ నావెల్స్ గుర్తు రావాలి. His famous novel is, not getting any answers from the chat box. You can use the chat box. It's free. Don't worry. You can use it. No one is using the chat box. The Walter Scott is the author of which famous historical novel? Yeah, again Ravinder sir. Ivanhoe, right? Waverley. So the very important work is Waverley. Everyone should recall this name, Waverley novels. His novels are called as Waverley novels. Generally, his novels are called as Waverley novels. So please memorize this term, Waverley novels, historical novel, Walter Scott. Again, his biography is famous. His biography is famous because it is written by John J.G. Lockhart. So famous biographer. And Life of Dickens. This is written by John Foster. He's a close friend of Dickens. And I have given 4 or 5 other works also, but just for your reference. Will in the World, How Shakespeare Became the Shakespeare. This is very famous work. We will discuss it in the Shakespeare criticism. Stephen Greenblatt, historical criticism, that is called historical criticism. We have a separate chapter in criticism. Will in the World, the subtitle is How Shakespeare Became the Shakespeare. A very interesting one. And Life of Charles Bronte, and Ravinder sir has given this inputs to you, that is by Elizabeth Gaskell. Very important work. And we are moving to the next topic, that is autobiography. So what is the difference between a biography and autobiography? So the answer is in the title itself. Autobiography is written by the same person. So if a person writes his own biography, that becomes autobiography. Very simple. And there is a Longfellow, H.W. Longfellow said that a simple difference between autobiography and biography. Autobiography is a product of first-hand experience. A product of first hand experience, whereas biography is the product of second hand experience, second hand knowledge. That means if the person is involving directly in his writing of biography, that becomes autobiography, and that becomes the first hand experience. If some other person is writing about you, the other person may or may not know about your deeds, actions, or achievements. So that becomes a second hand knowledge. So simple thing. Abraham Coley also said it is hard and nice subject for a man to write on himself. Abraham Coley, and is very important. Do you know? I have quoted this Abraham Coley in the previous class. If anyone remembers, please type in the chat box. I'm just taking a 30 seconds break or a 1 minute break. Irregular ode, right answer, Aditi, and any other option. I have given one more example also about Abraham Cowley. Any other option, please? Very important person this is. Abraham Cowley is very, very important. Yeah. Any answer? Just I'm waiting for your answers in chat box. I'm just testing your memory because this Abraham Cowley is very important. Irregular word, it's okay. Any other options? Any other? Please use the chat box. Abraham Cowley. Oh God. Hmm. Ravindra sir, I think it's time for you to use the chat box at least. First poet included in the lives of poets. Yes. Ravindra sir has given the exact answer. Yes, there is a famous work by Samuel Johnson. Samuel Johnson's work that is known as The Lives of the English Most Eminent English Poets. Simply the lives of poets. Simply the lives of the poets, in which Samuel Johnson has included 52 poets. Please remember this work. There are 52 lives, that means biographies. In simple terms, I just want to tell is 52 lives are mentioned in the Samuel Johnson's The Lives of the Poets. Out of those 52 lives, the first life or the first chapter is about Abraham Cowley, and he is very important, and he's also a forerunner of this metaphysical poets. So I will just go to that concept later. The classes, even in criticism, we will discuss that. And one more interesting point about this Lives of Poets book is to please make a note. That is very important. These 52 lives are arranged in an order. So those are all, these lives are arranged in an order, the chronology of the date of death of the poets, not the date of birth of the poets. So these lives are arranged in such a way that the date of death is very important in which. So that's why this Abraham Cowley is a very important person. Please make a note of it. Coming to the autobiographies, Confessions is very important, and one of the first biographies, it is by Saint Augustine, and this is we discussed just in the class itself, and The Diary of a Young Girl by Anne Frank, Left Hand, Right Hand by Osbert Sitwell. This is very important, frequently asked question in examination. That is Confessions of an Opium Eater. Confessions of an Opium Eater. Opium is a drug. So Thomas De Quincey is addicted to it, And in this book he has made some confessions about his own life, very important. Autobiography of Agatha Christie, very important. And in previous examination, a long walk, that is by Long Walk to Freedom by Nelson Mandela and his friend Mahatma Gandhi's My Experiments with Truth. I Am Malala, very important. The Girl Who Stood Up for Education and Was Shot by the Taliban. It is by Malala Yousafzai. And Wings of Fire. So every Indian must remember this work. It's a great personality by APJ Abdul Kalam. It is written by Arun Tiwari, partly. And Mein Kampf, that is by Hitler. So in English, it is translated as My Struggle. So very important. And here, this is very interesting one. Maya Angelou. She's a famous writer, American writer. She wrote 7 autobiographies. So out of these 7, the first one is very, very important. And you should memorize this name. I Know Why the Caged Bird Sings. It's a 1969 biography. This is a series of 7 biographies by Maya Angelou. So this is very important. And coming to the next important topic, that is memoirs. Memoirs nothing but related to the memory of an incident, memory of a personality, memory of something. So these memoirs plays important. It's there are there are some similarities between biographies and memoirs, but autobiography is a broad one. We can simply say that autobiography is a broad subject, but memoir is maybe a small incident is described in that. Maybe with a meeting with a person, or maybe a bad incident, or maybe a good incident in his life. So memoirs is nothing but based on the memories, based on true incident in the life of the writer, or maybe the other's life. So here, don't worry much about this term, but here the earliest one is in Julius Caesar's Commentary di Bello Gallico, that is the commentaries on the Gallic Wars, and Commentary di Bello Civili, that is commentaries on the Civil War, is one of the earliest memoirs. And very, very famous one is a Walden, and everyone should remember this Walden. So do you have any idea about this Walden? If yes, please answer the question. What is Walden and how it is related to, and any connection to the Walden to the present Indian writers or Indians? Any answer, please? Vidya sir, I think you have to use your chat box now. I'm just taking a small break of 30 seconds or 1 minute. Walden is very important work. Walden is a pond. It's a pond. It's a lake. We can say it's a lake. No one is using the chat box. Okay. It's a very famous American writing. So he spent,
So it is there. It is
yeah, please.
important book which recommends the non-violent movement of Mahatma Gandhi, sir.
Exactly. Sir. Exactly. Thank you. Thank you for that word. Yes. Walden is nothing but a pond. It has a connection with the Indian literature or Indian independence movement, in which Mahatma Gandhi has adapted non-violence. Yes. So here, Walden, David Henry Thoreau's famous work, his experiences of living simply without carrying anything. He spent some days near the Walden Pond, and he wrote a book about Walden and civil disobedience movement. Actually, civil disobedience movement. This is about paying of taxes. This is about against the paying of taxes to the government. So very important work. We
So
will discuss later.
its subtitle is very important, sir. Life in the woods.
Life in the woods. Exactly. Yes, yes. Life in the
It's a
woods.
subtitle.
The subtitle is Life in the Woods. Very important work, American work. Please remember this. And very, very important, sir. Thank you. Yeah, now we will move into another important one. I am Malala. This is very important. Joseph Anton. So, by looking at this name, you can have some guess. Joseph Anton is a memoir by Salman Rushdie, very famous post colonial writer. He is an Indian born writer, British writer now. And here, Joseph Anton is a memoir of two writers. Here, Joseph is Joseph Conrad. Please note these two important words. Anton is nothing but Anton Chekhov. He's a Russian writer. He's an African writer, Joseph Conrad, and a Russian writer, Anton Chekhov. So that's why he just this Joseph Anton is an amalgamation of two writers' names. That is Joseph Conrad and Anton Chekhov. This may be asked in examination. Please have a look at this word. And now there are some guides, manuals, handbooks, technical books. For example, if you purchase a TV, you will get a handbook with that, how to operate the TV. Even if you purchase a phone, you will get a manual. And these are all also segregated or categorized into non-fictional works. And the next, travelogues. Travelogues are nothing but the experiences of traveler, experiences of the journey. So the histories is a book by Herodotus. This is a record of his travels, and this book is very important. Sir John Mandeville, Sir John Mandeville's Voyage and Travels of Sir John Mandeville. This is one of the first books which inspired the British people to take sea journeys, voyages. Voyage is nothing but sea journeys, and this is one of the reasons of their imperialism. The Britishers got interest in travels, and they wanted to go to the new places and to do the business. And this book was like a guide for them. This Mandeville's Voyages and Travels is just like a guide for them, and it motivated them. And finally, this is one of the reasons behind the imperialism of the England. So we all studied in history books like Columbus, and we also discussed about the sea route to India by Vasco da Gama. All these were the inspiration by the Mandeville. Very important one. So please remember. And self-help books. Even nowadays,
Treasured, sir.
these are very,
Treasured, sir.
yeah,
Hello.
yeah, yeah,
One,
yeah. Please,
one point, sir.
yeah,
So, good
please, please,
evening,
please
dear
add
friends.
that.
Please note John Ruskin's Unto the Lost is the inspiration for non-violence movement by Mahatma Gandhi. And
Civil
Thoreau's,
disobedience book is,
this
yes,
is the previous one is civil disobedience. Those
yes,
are both related to a connection. They had a connection with Mahatma Gandhi's life. They
yes,
turned these two books turned Mahatma Gandhi's entire life. So you please remember these two, very very important.
yes.
Okay, sir.
Civil
Thank you.
disobedience. Thank you. Yes, sir. Civil disobedience. That's why I told about paying of taxes. So this Walden in Walden, David Henry Thoreau experimented how to live without any paying taxes, without anything, without any connection with the world. So he experimented his own life and he spent his life in the woods. So that's why the subtitle is The Life in the Woods. And he rested, take some rest at the Walden Pond. So that is his entire summary, the Walden. And this inspired the civil disobedience movement by Mahatma Gandhi. So that's why I just mentioned this name. And Sir has also mentioned the Ruskin's book. Yes, Unto the Last. That book is Unto the Last. That is about non-violence movement. Yes, please note, make a note of that. And self-help books are very famous nowadays. So uh, if you read these self-help books, it will help us a lot to shape our personality, to focus on the problems. So I have listed some important books. These are my favorite books. The Alchemist. Everyone should read this book, The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. The Seven Habits of Highly Effective People by Stephen R. Covey. All these are categorized into self-help books, and this is also a type of genre in non-fiction writing. And the diaries are very important. In 17th century, we have two diaries. These two people, Samuel Pepys and John Evelyn. Samuel Pepys and John Evelyn. These two writers are very important. The Pepys diary and John Evelyn's diary, very, very important. And uh, even these diaries were published after the death, but due to some coding language used by these writers, the exact meaning of the diaries were not decoded up to the 19th century, almost up to 20th century, I think. So we will discuss it in later in the class. So these diaries are also one of the important sources of English literature, important sources of the historical events in English literature, and very, very important diaries. We'll discuss it elaborately. Even they described about the experiences of their experience of watching the dramas of at the time. Even they watched the dramas of Shakespeare and they noted the remarks of the dramas. So very interesting one. So we'll discuss it in the diary section. And historical non-fiction based on the historical events. True historical events are included in the historical non-fiction works. For example, Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children is there. So that is purely a fictional work. But even though there are some non-fictional, there is some historical incidents are mentioned in that work, like independence of India, because the Midnight Children are born on the day of independence, midnight of the day of the independence, that is 15th of August at sharp 12. And these 1001 children, and remember that there are 1001 children in that book, Midnight Children, and these 1001 children have special abilities, special powers, supernatural powers. Each child is unique. Each child is unique. So very important book, that is Salman Rushdie's Midnight Children. And this book has won three Booker Prizes. Three Booker Prizes. Booker Prize once in 1981, and then Booker of the Bookers and the Best of the Bookers. And it is also nominated for the Golden Book Award also. But unfortunately, this was not received the prize the fourth time. But that book received three Booker Prizes. So very interesting and very important work. And you all know that recently an attack was in the news. So he lost his eyesight. Salman Rushdie lost one of his eyesight. And pamphlets. So we'll move to the pamphlets now. Pamphlet is nothing but a brochure. Nowadays, if we go to Amirpet, you will get number of brochures about the coaching centers, number of brochures about the computer coaching centers especially. So pamphlet is nothing but an unbound book that is about without a hardcover, without any binding, a small pamphlet. So this is about a short piece of writing, especially short piece of polemical writing. Polemical means satirical writing on social evils, on the problems, on the issues, anonymously written. Generally, these are written in anonymously without any name of the author, but later the author reveals the name. So this is very important. Satire writers are like Swift, Defoe, Decker, Nashi, Milton, Addison, Steele, very important writers. We'll discuss about pamphlets. We have separate chapter in 18th, 17th century, and letters we discussed in the yesterday's class. So let us give a new genre. There has become a new genre of English literature. These letters were used in the fictional writing also. That is an epistolary genre was emerged. And finally, we came to the last and important point of the today's class, that is essays. Essay, the word essay is nothing but to attempt, to try. The word essay means to attempt. So in essay, interestingly, one can write anything. So see the famous quote by Aldous Huxley. He said that it is a literary device. Almost everything and almost anything can be covered in that. So an essay can cover anything and everything. Almost everything can be covered through essay. So these essays may be about the problems of the society, or about the biography of a person, or about any commentary on a fictional work, or about the problem of a life. Whatever it is, everything can be included in the essay. So here you need to remember three important persons of essay. I have given it here. One is Montaigne, Michael D. Montaigne, is a French writer, and the first one to adopt the term 16th century. The term essay was adopted by Montaigne. You have to remember this. And then Francis Bacon is the one. His essays are very famous. He is known as the father of English essays. And then we have a famous personality, Charles Lamb. He is known as the Prince of Essays. One is father of essays, second one is the Prince of Essays. So these three are the very important names associated with the essays. So now this we have come to a conclusion now, and these are all few questions. So please try to answer the questions using the chat box if possible, or if you are able to do this on your own, I can go for the next topic. So, but the thing is, whenever I give a task, no one is responding. I'm very sorry to say that. Please try to do the task whenever it is assigned to you. So please do that. Yeah. Anyhow, we will see a few of the questions, and we will move to the next topic. We have only the time is only 8:10 now. I can engage you for another 15 to 20 minutes. So simply we will go to the 5 or 10 questions, and then we will move to the next topic. If you are okay with that, I will move to the questions now. So please try to answer the question. Which of the following is a characteristic of a fiction? Obviously, the answer is C. So whenever you come across MCQs, the best way to solve the MCQs is to eliminate. Elimination is the only key to get success in the competitive examinations, because it improves your chances of right questions. For example, sometimes we know the right answer, sometimes we don't know the right answer. But instead of going to the blind options, you can make some elimination. See, the first one is it presents a factual information. The second one also says the same thing, real events. And third one is about intended for instructional purposes like a self-help book. But these are all not right. The right answer is imaginary story or imaginary character, imaginary plot. Who is the author of the prize prime classic novel, important classic novel, that is Pride and Prejudice? Yeah, everyone knows it, and don't expect this type of simple questions in the examination, but we will get surely 5 or 4 questions at least on the names of the authors. Very important. And which literary term describes the time and place in which a story unfolds? Setting, setting. Yes. Time and place. Setting. Simple thing. Next. In fiction, what is the term for the central problem or struggle that characters face and must dissolve? Conflict. Again, the answer is C. Conflict is the central problem. Climax, resolution, denouement, all these three are related to drama terms. Climax is the highest point of the conflict. Resolution is the last answer. Denouement is the falling action. We discussed all these terms. And George Orwell's important work about dystopian society. Dystopian means bad place, bad society. So, which of the following is the work by George Orwell? Of course, the 4 works are about dystopian works. Any idea? The Brave New World is Aldous Huxley's novel. The first option is Aldous Huxley's novel. The second option, Fahrenheit 451. Fahrenheit 451 is by Ray Bradbury. Ray Bradbury. And this book is about book burning. I told you that Fahrenheit degrees 451 is nothing but, it's an interesting point. The title was taken from this 451 degrees because the 451 degrees is the temperature in which a paper gets burned automatically. The paper catches fire automatically, auto burning temperature. So this is not by George Orwell, and 1984 is the right answer. In this famous novel, we have a quote: Big Brother is watching you. There is a famous quotation: Big Brother is watching you. So everybody is afraid of Big Brother. No one knows who is Big Brother, but everybody is afraid. Everybody is afraid in the story about Big Brother. Big Brother is watching you. Big Brother is watching you. Some force. So please make a note of this point. 1994, Big Brother. So I have given description, detailed story of this in the modernism. You can go to that. The Catcher in the Rye by J.D. Salinger. Very important American novel. This one, last one is, and this is about also about American novel. Sixth question. So I think I can move for the next topic. Yeah, who is the author of the classic novel Moby Dick? Moby Dick is a classic novel in which there is a famous character of English literature, the entire English literature, we can say, Captain Ahab, the most famous literary character, Captain Ahab, and his quest to hunt down a white whale. So, Captain Ahab is in search of a whale. To kill that whale, he started a journey. That is Moby Dick. The name of the whale is Moby Dick. The name of the whale. Whale is a big fish, you all know that. Moby Dick is the name of the fish, and Captain Ahab is the one who is in search of that. whale. So Dickens is not the answer because I told you clearly in the beginning he is an American writer. So Dickens is not an American writer. Nathaniel Hawthorne is very famous for Scarlet Letter novel, and Edgar Allan Poe is very famous for detective stories and short stories. And the answer is Herman Melville. C. Herman Melville is the answer. Very famous work in English American literature. Okay, just please go through the remaining questions also. I need not to discuss, I think, all these questions. So please go to these all these questions. We have 28 questions in the material. So please try to solve all the 28 questions and then scan this QR code, or I will share a link of this quiz question today. So please try to answer the quiz questions. Few of you only attempted the first two quizzes. So I request you all to please attempt the first and second quiz also today or tomorrow. No issues. And we have some literary terms, but these terms are discussed in contextually. I think we need not to discuss all these terms in detail today or tomorrow because uh, we get all these terms contextually. So we can discuss there. So these are for your reference purpose. And next, we have a chapter on figures of speech. So this will be discussed, but this is very important one. So we'll get at least one question from this area. And then we have an important table. So today I will just start the table and just I will take only 10 minutes and I will close the class today. I'm just giving you a brief introduction. I request you all to take the printout of this table. Uh, this table is only 4 pages, I think. This is the first one, second, third, fourth, five, 6 pages are there. 6, 7 pages. Okay, 7 pages. So these are very important. So if you study these 7 pages thoroughly, you will get at least 5 questions in the set examination. Compulsory 5 questions. You can check the previous paper or you can check the any question paper. You will get 5 questions from this, at least 5 questions, I'm saying. At least 5 questions from this table. And almost I can say even you may get 10 questions because it covers all the names of the authors, some important quotes, important quotations, sorry, important quotes for remembering the sequence, chronological order, like this. And you have Spencerian, like there are some quotes given, so you need to memorize these quotes. So you will memorize the names of the poets or writers of the age. So how to read this table? I just give an example and I will stop the class. So I just tabulated the entire history of English literature in a table. Here, if you observe the first stage or first literary age in the English literature is Anglo-Saxon age. Anglo-Saxon age. This is from 450 to 1066. Please remember the dates also. Sometimes in examination, we may have a question on the periods or literary ages. So 450 AD to 1066 AD. This is also known as Old English period. Old English period is nothing but Anglo-Saxons. So there is a famous king named Harold. You should also remember this name. Harold is the last Saxon king. So I try to include the names of the kings or the monarchs as well as the historical and literary remarks in one table itself, one single table. So let us see how this is to be remembered and how this is very useful in understanding the English literature. I will just give you a few examples and I will just stop the class. For example, the beginning of English, the term English, the language English was here. In the beginning, English or the England was called as Angola land or Ingol land. Now we are calling it as England. This this Angola land was invaded by Celtic several tribes. Actually, Romans invaded this country. Celts, Romans, Germanic tribes, Vikings, Normans, and several other tribes invaded the England. Here, the first to be remembered is the code should be remembered CRASJV. CRASJV. You should remember this term. Celt, or we pronounce it as Celt. Celts. Generally, the pronunciation is Celts. The Celts are the first tribes, first of the tribes who invaded the England, and this is known as the Celtic England. Now, after the invasion of the Celts, the land is known as Celtic England, and later this is invaded by Romans, that is CRA, and A stands for ASJ. ASJ stands for Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. These three are together known as the Germanic tribes. German, they came from together. They are called as Germanic terms. Here, Angles means hookmen. Hookmen are sailor. Hook. They use a hook. Saxons are warriors. They use the swords. So here, Germanic tribes, Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. Very important question in the previous examination. Who are the three Germanic tribes invaded the England? Who are the three? ASJ, that is Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. And later, this England was invaded by Vikings also, and then by Normans. So in Anglo-Saxon period, we have CRASJV, that is Celts, Romans, Angles, Saxons, Jutes, and Vikings. We stop here. So because these are the tribes who invaded England before this 1066 AD. And sometimes we may get a historical question also. So, like, who are the three Germanic tribes? And sometimes we get a question like the Norman invasion, that is Anglo-Norman period. The starting of the Anglo-Norman period is, that is the old French is 1066. This is because of a war, that is here invasion of England, Norman conquest. This is also known as Norman conquest, or also known as Battle of Hastings. Very important question. Battle of Hastings is in the year 1066. This is in between the inhabitants of the England and Normans, that is Angles and Normans. So here Angles is nothing but English people. Normans are French people. So one should remember these historical events, very important events I just tabulated here. So England is inhabited by a group of people, and this is invaded by Celts, Romans, Germanic tribes, and Vikings up to 1066 AD. And this is about historical events. Now we generally use the term England, Britain, Great Britain, but all those are UK. All these are not similar words, not the same. So UK or Great Britain or England, all these are not similar words. So England, what we are talking now, this is England, and if we include Wales and Scotland, these two countries, this becomes Great Britain. And if you also include the Northern Ireland, actually the entire Ireland was included, but the Southern Ireland was separated from Britain, UK. So now it is UK. If we say UK, United Kingdom, that is group of four countries: England, Wales, Scotland, and Northern Ireland. Remember this term. And this is a basic knowledge for English students. And very important question in the literary mocks is, English is a West Germanic language. Now you understood why English is a Germanic language because three Germanic tribes invaded the England: Angles, Saxons, and Jutes. That is the reason there are several groups of languages in the world. See, the world languages are categorized into several groups. One is Indo-European group, Dravidian group, Indo-Aryan group. You all know that Telugu is a Dravidian language. It belongs to Dravidian group. Hindi is Indo-Aryan group. Indo-Aryan. Aryans invaded India. That is Indo-Aryan group Hindi. But English is a Indo-European group, and there are several other subgroups in Indo-European group also. So that is the reason. Just directly remember, English is a West Germanic language. This is a previous question in set examination. Very important. So, and now you know the connection between history and literary. Why English is a West Germanic language? Before this class, you may not answer the question, I think, but now you can answer the question because three Germanic tribes has invaded. So it has obviously when new tribes invaded any country, there will be changes in their languages, then culture, then customs, and everything. So that is the reason Anglo-Saxons and Jutes. Yes. Now the poetry. So we all know that the first literary genre is poetry, and that is orally. And the term for oral saga is pagon saga. Pagon saga is a oral literature. This is transmitted orally from generation to other generation. Very important. And this is mainly about their heroes. What was the theme of the writings? Theme of the poetry? This is about the heroic wars, heroic deeds. And the historical Anglo-Saxon chronicle was started by King Alfred. Very important question is this is a chronicle is nothing but recorded history of events. So the Britishers, the English people started writing history or Anglo-Saxon chronicles since this 450 BC. By that was by King Alfred. Remember this historical Anglo-Saxon chronicle. Very important this one. And there are three important writers of this age: Bede, Cadman, and Wolf. So these should be remembered here. And Beowulf is the very important and greatest epic poem of English literature. A simple question in exam. Beowulf poem is related to which of the following ages? Anglo-Saxon age, Anglo-Norman age, something. So Beowulf poem is related to Anglo-Saxon age. This is the greatest epic poem of the English literature. So this in this way you need to understand the English literature, historical events, and the literary events. There is a connection. Why I am talking about connection is you will understand the difference. Now you just got the link between Germanic tribes and West Germanic language. In the same way, Normans are from French. Normans are French people. Their language is French. Obviously, in this age, there is a tremendous influence of the French language in the English literature. Almost old Anglo-Saxon poetry disappeared here because of the influence of the French. You all know that we belong to Telangana. We belong to Telangana, and you all know that um, Qutub Shahis, Mughal rulers, especially the Urdu rulers ruled us. So that is the reason Urdu is our Urdu terms are very familiar for us, especially in Telangana, especially in Hyderabad. But whereas these terms are very new to the other areas. So in Andhra Pradesh, you all know that the government of British was there. So they have English medium schools. But in Telangana, before independence, we have Urdu medium schools. So obviously the rulers will implement their language. So that is the reason in Anglo-Norman period, French dominated the English. So this should be in idea. So we should have this all these things in an idea, and we have uh, very important Anglo-Saxon verse disappeared, and meter and rhyme was introduced, and spelling modifications was done. Old poetry disappeared, that is old English poetry completely disappeared. But later in the Chaucer's age, it was recovered. Chaucer again introduced the old English style of writing, that is using East Midland dialect. This is also a famous question in the previous examinations. So in this way, so if you master this table, you will get the entire historical events as well as the literary remarks. That is the changes from one age to other age, and connection to one author to other author, and connection to one literary genre to other literary genres. So I hope you got the idea of this table. So thank you for your patience, and I'm just stopping the class here. So I request you all to please ask the questions related to fiction or non-fiction, or about this today's Anglo-Saxon age. So thank you for all for joining. Any options, any questions? So we welcome the questions. Thank you. It's already 8:30. We can continue the class for another 5 minutes and just wind up the class. 5 to 10 minutes if you are active. Yeah, please give your suggestions also, so that for further improvement.